Yeah.
Yes, but you said you started to talk about, you said that you were working
Yeah,
in the
well,
hospital.
I worked at the hospital. I was just an ordinance, but I saw things that if anybody came into the camp pregnant, I don't know, for some reason they didn't take the woman away and send her away and kill her. They gave her an abortion even if she was in her 8th month.
She had to make an abortion.
She wasn't asked. Nobody asked her.
Who did it?
Dr. Joseph, a Latvian Jew, he had strict orders to make sure that they never would be able to become pregnant again. He didn't follow those orders all the time, when he could avoid it, but many times he had no choice.
But he had to do it. And what did he say to the woman?
Nothing was said to her.
When she was put in a bed, what happened?
She was just taken in, and she knew she had no choice. She cried, she screamed, but no choice. I remember one. She was German. She said, "Why don't you kill me with my baby?" But they didn't. They just took the... What happened to her later, I don't know. Many of them died anyway. Many of them were killed later, but in the meanwhile, they gave her an abortion, and that was torture in itself. Imagine a woman 6, 7 months, an abortion, the baby was alive.
Right.
So they killed it, they drowned it in the toilet.
And the story of interdiction of sexual intercourse, how was it bring to the people?
I don't know, I tell you.
There were posters?
I was too young.
Posters.
There were posters all
Posters,
over.
and also the guy in charge of the house, so-called house commandant, house Vertrauensmann. He went from apartment to apartment and read it to every.
What did he read exactly?
He read that from now on it is strictly forbidden to have sexual intercourse. Simple. I mean, it is such a ridiculous kind of order under the circumstances. You can only enforce it if you separate men and women. But we lived together. It was impossible to enforce.
It's completely...
And so it is idiotic. However, that's what they did, and everybody in the ghetto, made jokes about it because they realized how silly it was.
What kind of jokes?
Oh, jokes that in the middle of the night, Krause will come and see whether somebody is sleeping with somebody else.
Krause was the commandant.
Yeah.
How could they control?
Of course they couldn't. They couldn't. That's why I was teasing my mother.
Please?
They didn't try, because I don't remember any incident that they did come during the night to the house for that purpose.
No,
I don't remember that.
of course not. It was
another thing to
a totally wasted kind of order, but interesting in itself because it should have shown us how subhuman we were. I mean, you can tell animals not to copulate by simply just keeping them apart, by making them less than men and women, to make them into anything subhuman. But we didn't understand that either. We made jokes of it. And the young people made the biggest jokes.
Yes.
Of course, because to the young people this would be something very important. But even I guess the older people made jokes. They were having jokes with. They were not that old then, but to us they were.
Of course, a
I remember
35-year-old woman was old to me.
The man who was in charge of our house, Berliner Straße 13, his name was Deutsch. And Deutsch, yeah, this was his name. His son is alive in Vienna.
But he was a Jew.
Yeah, sure, but his name was Deutsch. And when he came in to give this, to bring this command, I remember my father and I remember other people laughing with him, also Herr Deutsch, Sie werden kontrollieren, ob man es macht oder nicht macht, You're going to control whether you do it or you don't do it. And it was, to us, of course, it didn't mean that much. We were 11 and 13 respectively, and that was the furthest thing from our mind, I hope. But other than that, I can only say that it was an order designed to subdue any idea that one is still human.
No, unless they wanted people to disobey the order.
And then what?
Why do you say this?
I don't know, because I think that any time that they gave any kind of order,
Yes, it is
people
right.
did just to spite them. That's my opinion. I mean, if I would have been old enough, I would have. Because if they would have told me you can't, I think I would have done it just to spite them. But I was too young. I was 11. I didn't even think of it. But I think so that...
No, then it would have been. I personally believe that it was simply an order that came out of the Reichssicherheitshauptamt, and it was therefore.
But it was at the time they were thinking about the mass sterilization too. Of
that of
they
course.
were trying any kind of.
They were trying all kinds of ways to
yes.
make us stop having children. Now, if this would have been the only way, then the abortions would have been enough, right? But just to say you are not supposed to have any sexual intercourse, it is kind of silly in a way, and this is what the I believe that it did raise the morale in that we could laugh at the Germans.
Yeah, but I don't think
See?
that anybody would try under circumstances like that to have a child. I mean,
They
you would
were
have to be a
purely
moron.
accidents. They were purely
You would
accidents.
really have to be a moron under circumstances like this to bring a child
This
into
means
the
there were no children who were born
Well,
inside the Riga ghetto.
Oh yeah, there were children. Of course, there was one Latvian woman who had a child, and she was able to hide it for the longest time. They called it Moses Ben Ghetto.
Moses Ben Ghetto?
Moses Ben Ghetto, yes. And
But this was very,
yeah.
very, very
and
unusual.
he was found and killed.